Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Entitled People. Story 1 is by Agile Squirrel 3715. Coworker thinks she can bully and throw a fit because she's twice my age. I'm a 23 female and I work night shift as a CNA in a nursing home. I don't know why the other CNA I worked with last night felt the need to target me, as it was my first time ever working with her. She's been there for only a couple of weeks. But she very obnoxiously singled me out looking for a problem. I am a hard worker and I have zero interest in any kind of drama. I come to work to take care of my patients and get paid, then I leave. I may be overly bothered by this because I have anger problems that I work on keeping in control due to past trauma, and I know I have to keep it together to be successful for my dream career, so I just need to vent. This lady comes in a few minutes after me and I don't recognize her, so I go out of my way to be helpful and ask her if she's familiar with the patients she's assigned to, then give her a rundown of the patients and their needs and let her know where I'll be if she needs help. After I finish checking on all my people I'm assigned to take care of for the night, I sit down and start taking notes for a class I'm taking. And she comes up and asks for help repositioning a patient in bed that can't move on her own, so I drop what I'm doing and I go help her. To reposition a patient, you first use the bed remote to lift the bed above your waist so that you don't hurt your back bending over. Then you get someone on each side of the bed to lift them up and turn them and such. We get to the lady's room, and I grab the bed remote and start lifting it up, but it pauses for a second because of a shortage in the wires. Cheap facility. So it takes a little more than 2 seconds to reposition it, to start lifting the bed some more, and the other CNA raises her voice at me while bobbing her head around with attitude that the bed needs to be way higher than that. And I explained to her that I was trying to lift the bed, but it paused for a second and that I know how to do it. She then goes off on me about what I am and am not allowed to say to her, acting so aggressive over nothing, that even the patient and her roommate are looking at her confused and concerned. I didn't want to feed into her obvious attempts to make a scene, so I shrug it off and finish helping her with repositioning the lady and turn around and walk out of the room and go back to the nurse's station. Moments later, I get up to answer a call light. Then when I'm walking back to the nurse's station, the other CNA is standing there. And before I make it back to my seat, she starts yelling at me about how she is 47 years old and a 20-year-old vet, and that I better watch my mouth. And goes on and brings up my age several times and how she even has kids older than me, and was saying stuff like, I don't know what your problem is and you will respect me. I literally did not disrespect this woman once and even went out of my way to be nice to her, and blah, blah, blah. The whole time I kept repeating that I'm not going to argue with her. I'm just here to do my job and I don't care about her age or her work experience. I told her, just stop, I'm not arguing with you, multiple times, but eventually just walked away because I felt myself starting to shake, and my heart started to race, and I didn't want to go off and regret it later. Like I said, I have anger issues, so I get out of sight and lock myself in a bathroom shaking, trying to catch my breath while my heart is racing and pounding. I was nearly in tears because this woman was almost in my face about something stupid, and I couldn't blow the F up about it, and I wanted to, so bad. I get myself together, and once I stop shaking, I walk out to the nurse's station to the nurse who witnessed all of it and told her what happened in the patient's room. Meanwhile, I can hear the other CNA talking loud as F to the other nurse on all the way down the other hall about how I didn't even do anything to that little white girl. All I did was ask for help with Mrs. Patient's name, and she gave me attitude about how she knows what she's doing and like I haven't been doing this for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. Even though I had actually dropped what I was doing to help her with zero complaints. Then, for the rest of the shift, she was staring me down and gossiping with the other nurse, but would get quiet and would listen to what I would say to my nurse, even though it was all work-related. I'm thinking about asking the Dawn, is that like director of nurses? Pretty much like a supervisor to the nursing staff, to watch the camera at the nurse's station so she can see how she jumped down my throat when I was minding my own business, but I don't want to cause any more problems. I probably sound ridiculous for getting so worked up over someone acting like a child, but it really had me struggling to hold back. Sounds to me like she felt embarrassed that you said you knew what you were doing when she was trying to correct you in front of somebody else, because she felt embarrassed that you didn't defer to her grand knowledge. You were trying to do something and the technology got stuck and she didn't know that and she thought you were just stopping there. And she saw an opportunity to make it seem like she knows best and you're just some pleb newbie young nurse staff and you don't know what you're doing. She wanted to make it seem like she was the pro and the most knowledgeable one in front of these two patients. And you said, I know what I'm doing, it's just stuck. Some people who are older definitely see it as a big problem if the younger person that they're working with doesn't do exactly as they say and exactly the way they want it to be done. Our next story is by Valhalla's Dragon. Entitled Freeloader refuses to pay rent, thinks ignoring it will make it go away. My entitled brother, Dio, who's 26 years old, has been freeloading at my parents' house for at least 3 years. Now, to be honest, I hate him. We are the cliché younger brother and evil older brother duo. Tonight's event, we were eating dinner together like a family, and my dad reminds Dio again that he hasn't paid this month's rent, and if he doesn't, he'll soon fall behind on payment. Dio resorts to his favorite tactic, ignore him. When that doesn't work and Dad keeps telling him that he's only making things worse for himself by refusing to pay rent, Dio decides to try to sit at the table and forcibly take food and put it on his own plate. This tactic doesn't work either, as Mom took away the food and Dad told him they won't give him anything unless he pays rent. Dio then went back to square one and ignored them. Then, when he noticed I was drinking soda, he went out against Dad's word and took a soda for himself before getting back to ignoring Dad. Skip forward about 10 minutes. Dio still refuses to even address Dad. Then Dad asks when Dio is supposed to meet with his friend, and when Dio says the time, Dad says that he's going to be late because his dad won't drive him to the station unless he pays rent. Then Dio snaps and says that it's Dad's fault for not wanting to drive Dio to the station and decides to kick nearby furniture in anger. After a few more minutes of his quiet, stubborn rage, Dio finally decides to leave with Dad following him because Dio took the keys. I'm not sure if Dio was driven to the station or if he was forced to walk, probably driven because my dad is too nice. Side note, I didn't say anything because after over 1 million fights with Dio, we have learned that when Dio is angry, he gets triggered if I say even the slightest sassy thing to him, which can result in Dio throwing a violent tantrum, with the possibility of him lashing out at me specifically. This is everyone's favorite, I just know it, when there's somebody at home who doesn't contribute at all, and everyone walks on eggshells around them because they're convinced that they're going to have a freak out or tantrum and yell at everybody or be violent. But you can't just be a child throwing a fit every time you don't want to pay rent. Sadly, I think they need to go the route of that couple who filed to evict their son from their house. Go through the courts. If he's not paying rent and he's threatening violence or becoming really problematic and really argumentative when his dad tells him you need to pay rent and you agree with him, you really have no say in this. You're just the brother. So you shouldn't be antagonizing him. But if his father is telling him you need to pay rent and he's not, they should go through the courts. Have him forcibly removed. Some people can't figure life out until they're out on their own. Then they'll find a way. That being said, though, the cost of living for anybody is way, 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 way too high right now. It's not acceptable and it's untenable, and it's only a matter of time until all the suffering people throw their own little tantrum. Our next story today is by Stripped Bark. Easel. I have a small business in carpentry, making gifts, lamps, and home interiors bits and bobs. A couple of months ago, a new person moved in next door, an artist. As months go by, she regularly brags about selling her paintings for thousands and proudly mentions that she does not need the money anymore. She also regularly asks people for help, as she is not technical. Fair enough. A couple of weeks ago, she approaches me to work together and asks how much it would be to make her a wooden base for a painting, and then once the painting is finished, overlay it with 3 centimeters epoxy. I just quote her something like £120, which pretty much covers the cost only. Epoxy is expensive. Weeks later, I get a message from her on WhatsApp, saying she is still shocked by the quotation and accuses me of being expensive. After my response about her bragging behavior and double standards, she blocks me on WhatsApp. The truth must hurt. On Saturday, there she is again. As soon as I arrive home from shopping, she sheepishly approaches me with a request to build her an easel she bought on Amazon for £15. She said she had asked for help from a few people already, but no one else could do it. and now expects her carpenter neighbor to fix it. So I said I would do it, but only with a power drill, as I was short on time. I did warn her the poor quality easel might break in the process. Her response is instructing me what tools to use instead. Shocked as I was, I hand her back the easel and suggest she tries building it herself. Surely she has a screwdriver in the house. I am sure that she will tell the next person she asks to make the thing that her carpenter neighbor was not able to do it. Epoxy is expensive, and it's also horribly bad for the environment. People are still going to use it, unfortunately, because it makes some pretty things when it dries. Our next story today is by Phantom Celebi. Entitled Woman Karen didn't want me to use the bathroom. Granny yells at her. So my husband, 34 male, and I, 36 female, were coming back from upstate New York. We went to see my brother, who was like 4 hours away from us by Greyhound. It was a long trip, and I have kidney issues due to my lupus, so I rushed to the bathroom when we got to the Port Authority. For info, I am short, chubby, and use a walker. When I got to the bathroom, I had no stalls to go to but one. There were lots of stalls. However, I could only use the disabled person's stall because it was the only one big enough for my walker. So I waited outside of the stall for a while, then knocked when it got to the 10-minute point. The woman huffed and said, "Use the other stall, B-word." I tell her I can't because I'm disabled. The lady gets up. This woman grumbled, and I heard a flush twice. The toilets are automatic, so I'm guessing she was getting up and it flushed again before she fully got up. She walked out of the stall and she was bigger than me in height and weight. She had long green cornrows and name brand everything. She was wearing a tracksuit. She looked mad. I really couldn't wait anymore though, so I rushed by her to get to the bathroom. It was quick, but what I didn't expect was the lady banging on the stall telling me to get the F out. She did this over and over. I tell her I'm almost done, and when I walk out, it was the same woman. She says, "You stepped on my shoe. Do you know how much this is? More than 10 of your cart. If I see you again, I will make sure you are a paraplegic." Not a typo, this is how she said it. I am freaking out because I think this crazy lady is going to kill me for leaving a tiny mark on her shoe. This is when I hear, "B-word, shut your fat blank up, you ain't no thug." This woman then darts her eyes to this 4'11" granny. Woman had to be 80-something, but this granny was tough. This girl looked upset. The granny then looks at me and says, "Baby, are you okay?" I nod and she smiles. She then drags the larger woman out. I am guessing this was her grandma because they looked similar and she had the fear of God in her eyes. That was a weird bathroom trip, but one I will not forget. You ain't no thug, paraplegic. Oh my goodness. All because she stepped on her shoe. If she can afford a pair of shoes like that to begin with, then she can afford to replace the shoe or have it professionally cleaned or buffed out or whatever you want to call it. Some people. I'm not one that likes to be interrupted when I'm using the bathroom, but I wouldn't use the one that belongs to disabled people either. Our next story today is by Miss AAA 2. Dear parents, your vacation is not your nanny's vacation. My cousin, let's call her Amy. She is currently a nanny for a new family and it's going well. She made the mistake of not setting boundaries with the first family. When she was hired for the first job, she was told the family takes a vacation every year to the beach in Disney World, Florida, and how beautiful it is and how lucky she will be to be able to go. My cousin said her idea of a vacation would be to go skiing, noting the fact that her ideal vacation is not theirs. So in August, the parents were besides themselves because Amy had not committed to going on vacation with them. The father said to her via email something along the lines of she should feel honored to be able to get a free trip to Disney World and how expensive it is she'll never be able to afford to go on her own, as if she wanted to go in the first place. Here's the problem the family doesn't seem to understand. This is your vacation, not your nanny's. This family has 4 kids, ages 3, 6, 8, 12. She works her butt off when she has them. My cousin says she was having panic attacks thinking about trying to keep 4 kids safe at Disney World because the parents are useless when she is around, save for times when the mother will want her to go to family outings and the agreement is they work as a team. The family tried throwing in her face her airfare and travel would be paid for, so she would be expected to take a pay cut. There's not much more to this story, but I'm so proud of my cousin for refusing to go and letting the family know this is a vacation for them, not her. Families who can afford a traveling nanny, let alone a nanny, is considered a luxury to most. You need that nanny to go on vacation with you more than that nanny wants to go. So what if, God forbid, the nanny may end up enjoying herself for one night? You should want your nanny to enjoy herself even if one night, so she will go next year. And stop with the culty, your family, that only leads to manipulation. Your nanny is your nanny. Come take care of our kids on vacation for us. You can take care of all 4 of our kids at Disney World. Make sure they're safe and happy and fed and watered and going on rides and changing into clothes and... Oh gosh, that sounds fantastic. That's quite the vacation for me. You're going to pay for my lodgings and airfare. Yeah, that's what you do if you have a worker come with you. And you have to take a pay cut. No. No. That's not happening. You pay full price and you pay for her lodgings. She should have to incur no cost at all for the entire trip. And she should be paid the same that she gets when she's working for you at home hourly, or more, because it's a massive inconvenience for her to go. Down in the comments by Nice Axe Collection. I remember at Disneyland, I saw this couple with their kids and a nanny, and when one of the kids got scared, the mother went to comfort the child, but the child completely ignored her and went to the nanny. That was very sad. Under that by Nurse Robin. I was a nanny in New York in the 90s. There were 2 kids, a toddler and a newborn. I was with them for 14 hours a day, Monday through Friday, plus some extra. The baby cried for me when she was with her mom. I couldn't even walk around the house on my day off or she would start screaming for me to hold her. Heartbreaking. The mom blamed me and treated me badly because of it. And finally, underneath that by Sweet Waterfall 0579. Obviously, it was your fault the children preferred you. If you hadn't treated them with kindness and affection, they would want to be with me. Yeah. You guys probably know the song The Veldt by Deadmau5 that's based on the Ray Bradbury story, where the children are in such a futuristic society and technology is so advanced that they have a technological nanny, basically. This room the kids go in and they can create in their minds anything they want in this room. And for some reason they create like lions in Africa. And they love the nanny program more than their parents. If you ever get a chance to read it and you're not like bothered by gruesome details, or if you listen to the lyrics of The Veldt by Deadmau5, it's pretty brutal what happens to the parents in that story. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a warm and toasty day.